Well, thank you, Fiona. Thank you to my amazing team. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, executive members, to the Premier. It sounds good every time I say it. To all of our members, senators, elected representatives and our councillors. Well, Fiona, thank you. I probably don't have anything to add to that. So maybe I can give you back an efficiency dividend. I'm just joking. Look, the clip we just saw shows a picture of a city with incredible momentum, a city with a bright future, an economic and a lifestyle powerhouse. But before I say more about that, I wanted to transport you back to the time that Councillor Cunningham was talking about, the Deputy Mayor. 100 years ago. This year marks an important milestone in our city's history. Your capital, Queensland's capital, because it was exactly 100 years ago that our predecessors made the big, bold and visionary decision, the most bold and visionary decision ever made in local government in Australia, to create Australia's only super council. 100 years ago, Brisbane was stagnating. And so people of vision and conviction hatched a long-term plan to kickstart this sleepy town and create what they will want to see as a modern city. And the plan involved amalgamating 20 councils into one. The very first election was called in 1924, and the stakes were high. And because the stakes were high, immediately in that very first election, political parties got involved. The Labor Party announced they would be running candidates and a Lord Mayoral candidate or a mayoral candidate for that election. And political parties have been involved in Brisbane City Council ever since. At the time, obviously before the Liberal Party, before the National Party, before the LNP, a group of economic conservatives came together under the banner of the United Party. And they ran in that very first election. Their mayoral candidate was William Jolly, and he had previously served as the mayor of the Windsor Town Council. William Jolly and his United Party ticket won that election, and they picked up 13 out of the 19 council wards at the time. This was a pivotal turning point in Brisbane's history. It's part of the reason why we are the city that we are today. Now, William Jolly had big plans for Brisbane. Things started really moving after he became the mayor of this super city. He knew that Brisbane needed more bridges, and in fact, at that time, there was only one single bridge across the Brisbane River, just one, and it was the Victoria Bridge. And so in 1928, he kicked off the construction of the second bridge across the Brisbane River, and today we know that as the William Jolly Bridge in his honour. In 1930, a private company got approval to construct a toll bridge on the Brisbane River at Indooroopilly, known as the Walter Taylor Bridge, fully privately funded. And then in 1935, the state government came on board and they funded and constructed the iconic Story Bridge. Now, William Jolly also knew that a great city needed great parks and green space, room for people to recreate. He knew the importance of Mount Cootha. And in fact, it was William Jolly that established the Mount Cootha precinct. He secured the land to be a public access parkland and nature reserve. He expanded the land in council control by around 400 hectares or 1,000 acres. He later said that his greatest achievement as mayor was creating that Mount Cootha precinct. Another of his achievements was the creation of a golf course at Victoria Park. And he was the first president of the Victoria Park Golf Club. He knew that getting people involved in sport and providing a wonderful green space that people could access and get active and healthy was an important thing for a growing city. And just like Mount Cootha, he knew it was great to see the community using it, not to have it as green space that's locked up, but for people to be using it. Now, there's a lot of things that have changed in 100 years, but isn't it fascinating that some things stay the same? Today, we're still focused on the importance of bridges for Brisbane, new and old. We're focused on ensuring that the community has access to great parks and recreation places, places like Mount Cootha and Victoria Park. And we're envisaging the very next generation of those two precincts as we speak. And it's incredible that 100 years after William Jolly became the Lord Mayor, that when the Olympics comes in 2032, people will be going to Victoria Park. He created that. And people will be going to visit the Mount Cootha precinct. He created that. And people will be crossing bridges that he helped create. They'll see a city of bridges, old and new. They'll see a city of amazing parks and recreation precincts. And they'll see a city that has evolved from a stagnant town into a thriving metropolis. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of local government. The power of strong visionary leadership that leaves a legacy 100 years after a leader and a team have moved on. That is truly amazing. Now, ironically, most Brisbane residents would be none the wiser of this history. Now, I know Denver's here and he wants to make sure that more people know this history, and this year we're celebrating that 100th anniversary and Denver's helping us with that. But ladies and gentlemen, my team and I have proudly accepted the baton from William Jolly, just like we've proudly accepted the baton from visionary Lord Mayors like Sally Ann Atkinson, like Campbell Newman, and like Graham Quirk, who came before us. And holding the baton for the city of Brisbane is a great honour, but it's also a great responsibility. And it's one that drives us day and night. We hold this baton and we run forward with this baton. Cities must never stand still. They must never allow themselves to become stagnant. And we're determined to ensure that whenever that baton passes to the next generation of leaders, and we don't want that to be anytime soon, that we leave the city that is a better city for future generations. It drives us day and night. Now, just over a year ago, my team and I were re-elected on some key promises. Firstly, to keep Brisbane moving, to build the roads and transport that our city needs as it grows. Secondly, to keep the budget balanced and to ensure that Brisbane has the lowest rates in South East Queensland. And thirdly, to make Brisbane's lifestyle even better by creating more to see and do. These are the things that we are absolutely focused on, and will remain focused on them. But we also believe that governments should be responsive to their people that they represent, and particularly to the ratepayers and residents of Brisbane. And that's why we've recently moved to establish a brand new portfolio in the council, one that's focused entirely on excellence in customer service. Because in this day and age, our residents expect more than just basic services. They expect services to be responsive to the needs of the community. Councillor Sarah Hutton has stood up and will be leading this portfolio. And Sarah will be responsible for making sure that Brisbane City Council sets a new benchmark for local government and hopefully even government in Australia to deliver better, faster, more efficient and more accessible services. And whether it's lodging a development application online, booking a community hall, or even reporting a pothole, we want these processes to be as easy as possible and also to be frustration-free. And of course, customer service is not just digital. The portfolio will also cover more traditional services like our libraries, our cemeteries, and our face-to-face community touchpoints. Councillor Ryan Murphy will now lead an updated Brisbane infrastructure portfolio, which is a role that will become even more crucial as our city grows. Councillor Andrew Wines is taking charge of public transport, ensuring we continue to improve the ways that people move around Brisbane, including the rollout of the biggest boost to bus services in several decades and also the Brisbane Metro project. Just over a month ago, I presented the council budget for the 25-26 financial year. And as Councillor Cunningham mentioned, in the election last year, we were upfront with people about our commitment to keeping the budget balanced and keeping costs down. And that's exactly what we're doing. Every single budget we have delivered over a period of 20 years, both myself and my predecessors, has been a balanced budget. And it's underpinned by one simple principle. It's not our money. It's your money. It's not council's money, it's residents' money. We're entrusted with the hard-earned contribution of Brisbane's residents and businesses, and we treat that responsibility with the seriousness it deserves. Now, despite 2 interest rate cuts so far this year, the economic situation globally and across Australia remains challenging. That global uncertainty is high. Underlying inflation is persistent, and we know that households want to make every dollar count, and so do we. And it's because of this economic climate, not despite it, that we are focused on keeping the pressure off households and business budgets. We do that by ensuring that your money is spent wisely and responsibly. And that means cutting waste, prioritising projects that deliver genuine benefits, and never losing sight of financial discipline. And once again, we've delivered a balanced budget in surplus with lower debt and also the lowest rates in South East Queensland. Not just by a bit, but by hundreds of dollars cheaper than the next cheapest council in our region. But we're not just keeping the books in order, ladies and gentlemen, we're also delivering projects that keep Brisbane and South East Queensland moving. I mentioned the Brisbane Metro. It's a high-frequency, high-capacity bus rapid transit system. It's helping us make the leap from public transport to mass transport. It's already cutting travel times, improving frequency, boosting reliability, and connecting communities. 3 million trips have already been taken on Brisbane Metro. We've delivered the Kangaroo Point and Breakfast Creek bridges, and already they're being used by so many more people than we ever anticipated before they were built. We've completed the Moggle Road corridor upgrade at Endripilli and the first stage of the Beans Road upgrade project. Each of these projects is designed with one goal in mind: to make Brisbane an even better place to live, work and visit. But we're not stopping there. We're continuing to invest in even more projects as part of the Race to Gold, our vision for the game's transport and infrastructure legacy. This is our detailed long-term strategy to keep Brisbane moving and deliver a lasting transport legacy that will benefit our city well beyond 2032, and which is not about the Olympics, but it's about leaving a legacy that our community needs. It's done in time for the Olympics, but it's not because of the Olympics. And ultimately, these are all things that we need. In partnership with the Crisafulli LNP government, we're ensuring that investment in the Games doesn't just meet the needs of 2 weeks of sports, it meets the needs of decades of growth. Needs that the previous Labor government sadly neglected and ignored and failed to plan for. So we're starting from behind, but we have the opportunity to deliver a real legacy for the Games. The alternative that we saw that was so frustrating for all of us was using the Games as a political football, using the Games as an opportunity to walk the red carpets, using the Games for flashy media announcements, but playing politics with them. That has all come to an end. Everyone is on the same page. We have a plan in place. It is a great plan, it is a bold plan, it is a visionary plan. And also, speaking of legacy, I wanted to talk about one of Brisbane's most iconic assets, the Story Bridge. At 85 years of age, the Story Bridge is nearing the end of its original 100-year design life. And the reality is, without significant restoration, it's at risk of closure within 20 years. We're not going to let that happen. The bridge is more than just a crossing over the Brisbane River. It's part of our city's identity. It's a vital transport link and a symbol of the city's skyline. And that's why I appointed a committee of experts chaired by Nigel Shamier AM to plan for the bridge's restoration. We've already commenced work on the detailed business case to scope and cost the investment that was required. Early indications are that the work will be substantial and well beyond the financial capacity of Brisbane City Council alone, even a council the size of Brisbane. Now, it's important to remember that the Story Bridge is officially classified as a national highway. It's the Bradfield Highway. It's important to remember that the Story Bridge was built by the state government. They handed it to us as a gift. You know what they say about people bearing gifts? But it's also an asset of national significance. It is part of that national highway network, and it carries more than 100,000 vehicles every single day. Now, at least 42% of all of those vehicles are coming from outside of Brisbane. And I know many of you that live outside of Brisbane appreciate using the Story Bridge too. So it's not just a Brisbane asset, it's a Queensland asset, it's a national asset. Now, historically, under previous coalition federal governments, national highway projects were funded on an 80-20 basis. That saw the federal government contributing 80% of the costs and state or local governments putting in the other 20%. Unfortunately, the current Labor federal government is trying to weasel out of that agreement that stood for so long. I want to commend the Crisafulli government for securing an additional 80-20 deal for the Bruce Highway, a true game changer for the state and investment that is truly deserved and needed. This was a massive win for Queensland, and it's a precedent that should be applied elsewhere, like the Story Bridge. Just recently in Tasmania, the federal government paid 80% of the cost of a new bridge in Hobart. It was an old bridge, an ageing bridge, and instead of restoring it, they built an entirely new one, funded at 80% by the federal government. You're already paying significant taxes to the federal government. Wouldn't it be great to see some of those taxes invested back in Brisbane? Hear, hear. I heard a hear, hear. We'll echo that. In Brisbane, we've always believed in planning ahead, building responsibly, and making decisions that stand the test of time. We understand that good governance isn't about chasing headlines, it's about delivering real outcomes, outcomes that make a difference in people's lives. Sometimes you have to make the tough choice to make the right choice, and that's an LNP value and one that I'm very proud of. Because we always try to make the right choices, we continue to lead Australia's largest local government. And with that comes the ability, but also the obligation to show what's possible when financial discipline meets vision and determination for the future. From Brisbane Metro to the Story Bridge, from balanced budgets to bold infrastructure, building a Brisbane that is connected, vibrant, and ready for the future. The LNP leads a city that works for its residents today, while setting the foundations for generations to come. And we will always do it respecting that simple truth. It's not our money, it's your money. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I want to say some important thank yous. Both personally and on behalf of my entire team, I want to sincerely thank and acknowledge our outgoing President, Lawrence Springborg. Now, unfortunately, you know there's a very good reason why he's not here at the moment, but we've absolutely appreciated what Lawrence has done for this party and for Queensland and for our team. I want to thank Lawrence for years of steadfast and stable leadership at the helm of our party. In all honesty, there's no politics like internal party politics. And let me say, things could have been very different without Lawrence at the helm. And so I want to thank Lawrence for that stability that he's provided, the common sense approach, the approach that puts the party first and puts Queensland first, the approach that brings people together. He's a true servant leader and a true statesman, both of the LNP and of Queensland. And so I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Lawrence Springborg. I also want to extend my thanks and gratitude to our federal team at the last election, especially to Peter Dutton and the LNP members of Parliament and senators and our hard-working candidates. Politics can be brutal, and this most recent election at the federal level was more brutal than most. But I have to say, that outcome, though, was not reflective of the commitment and determination of our team and their leader, Peter Dutton, and David Littleproud. We genuinely appreciate their contribution to the service of our nation, of our state, and our party. I also want to congratulate Susan Lee for the election as the leader of the Liberal Party and leader of the opposition. Susan was kind enough to come and visit our party room today, and she is determined to work across all levels of government to make sure that we can rebuild the party and make sure that once again we can hold government at all three levels. I'm also pleased to see that we have fellow Queenslanders Ted O'Brien and also David Littleproud, re-elected or elected into their positions, critical roles to make sure that we can rebuild the party and move forward strongly. Our team looks forward to working so closely with our federal colleagues to make sure we can make that happen. And finally, I want to thank David Crisafulli and your team. After dealing with Labor governments for so many years, David and Jared's approach has been a genuine breath of fresh air. The best illustration of that difference of approach was the way they approached the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Their predecessors treated it as a political football, couldn't make decisions or made politically expedient decisions, but not the decisions that were right for Queensland. You can see what happens when a leader steps forward and does the tough thing that also is the right thing. David Crisafulli's been doing that. He's done it with the Olympics and so many other areas. Jared Blay and the ministers have been doing that. And as I said, it's a true breath of fresh air to work with you. The good news is, though, we're only getting started and there is so much more to achieve and so many amazing things that can be delivered for our city and for our state. Finally, to all of you, the party members and supporters. It's often said, but it is the truth. We would not be able to be here, standing here before you, without you. We would not be in the roles that we have without you. We would not be here without the blood, sweat and tears, without the roadsides, without the letterbox shopping, without your advocacy at those family barbecues and community barbecues. We would not be here without your willingness to stand up and defend us. And we would not be here without your commitment to this party. And so we remain committed to this party and we remain committed to you. And we remain ever grateful for doing everything we can to repay the trust that you have placed in us, to repay the investment that you have put into us, and to never let you down. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful convention.
I'll take